live day 2 of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. And yeah, like that. Got my Perrier, got my etc. Ahoy. Guess I should refresh at some point. All right, got to 0 viewers by refreshing. Good, good. Let's see, let's get rid of this board. This board looks better. All right, this suit burns better. All right, got nobody here. If you're not here, raise your hand. Well, if you're on YouTube, hello. If you're watching from YouTube, you can watch live my streams at twitch.tv/GM Benjamin Feingold. I stream every day and lately twice a day. So, yeah. All right, the Gawking Rebel has arrived. Let's see, we got Chessbra, Botez, Charlotte Chess Center. Hans Niemann's doing Fortnite. Very suspicious. I think like 10 minutes after Naka's match with Fabi, he was streaming. So I guess he has a lot to do. He probably has a lot of friends and family and a lot of other interests. That no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Let's see. Drink some water. Okay. Endless Sauce subscribed. Good, good. Breaking Beta, 300 centitus. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Man, that sounds fergalicious. Is Fabi better than Naka? At regular chess, yes. At, the kind of internet chess you guys are used to, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, then no. So it depends what kind of chess you're interested in. If you're interested in a game going 5 hours, then yeah. If you're interested in a game going 5 minutes, then no. Happy 2 a.m. Somebody's in Great Britain. Naka mentioned me today. That can't be good. Fabi's been the best player in the U.S. for, 7 years. GM Feingold 999. Naka's pretty solidly the 4th rated player in the U.S. Unless Dominguez lost rating points. If Fabi's the best, then Wesley, then Dominguez, and then Naka, and then Shanklin's 5th. Thanks, VTG978. That helps the train quite a bit. Anyway, you can go to 2700chess.com and see the world rankings. And then, yeah. I guess I won't start my analysis until there's more than 100 people here. That's correct. I was in part responsible for him moving to St. Louis. That was in, I guess, 2010. Yeah, that's 10 years ago. Yeah. Dripman 13 is correct. Jeffrey Zhang is higher rated than Shankland, but I forgot about Jeffrey Zhang. So Shankland used to be like 27.25, and now I think Shankland's like 26.97. I forgot about Jeffrey Zhang. I'm sorry. Yeah. In fact, at one point about 5 months ago, Jeffrey was like 10 points lower rated than Naka, but now I think he's like 30 below. Yeah, Jeffrey Zhang's the 5th rated by FIDE, and then Shankland. Yeah, I forgot about Jeffrey. And then Sam Sevian's pretty good. Ray Robson's pretty good, etc. Mainly, etc. Yip will be better than Shankland soon? No. Yeah, who is Shankland is correct. Did you get an illegal haircut? I did not. My hair hasn't been cut in months, and my beard has been trimmed by Karen. Hopefully that's not illegal. No, I mean, Naka and I are like that, son. Yeah. Don't give away match results. Everybody knows the results, Bonarici. This isn't 1970. Everybody knew the results when the games ended. What's my opinion on something? Isn't there some 10-year-old Americanist became an IM? I don't know. I guess. Not sure why you mentioned that. I mean, everybody knows the results, Bonerich. You're probably the only one in the world who doesn't know the results. 100 centidues, yay. Why does Lefairy have 5,000 in bullets? I don't know what you're talking about. Is there a word for something, 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 something? It's too many words. 23,000 channel points. You've got nothing. Did you ever watch King of the Hill? I used to watch King of the Hill before you guys were born. Would you ever consider doing a review of the Karpov-Kasparov games? Maybe. I would consider it. Would you ever consider making a very large donation? Let's see. Should I social distance from my dog? I haven't met your dog, so I don't know. It's weird. I went to this guy's office once, and there was a dog in his office, and I like dogs. So, also I like dags. Anyway, I said, does your dog bite? And he said, no. So I started petting the dog, and the dog bit me. And I was like, you said your dog doesn't bite. And he said, that's not my dog. Chess 24 leaderboard you mentioned. I did not mention Chess 24 leaderboard. I have never mentioned a Chess 24 leaderboard. Your spelling of leaderboard is suspicious. Great players on Keres. I probably already did one. That's been discussed. Let's see. Airplane. That's not Airplane. That's it's one of the Inspector Clouseau movies with Peter Sellers. I don't know what. Yeah, Pink Panther joke, right? Yay, Jim R202207 gifted a sub. We're gonna need somebody to do something because there's 30 seconds left. Either 3 subs or 1,000 centidues. All right, I haven't done Keres yet. Crazy. Great players on Yusupov. Man, it's bottom of the barrel. Yusupov wasn't as bad as he plays. Did you see the Hawks raise hell? I did not. All right, 5 seconds or the train's going to end. No. Somebody must give 5 subs. No. They did it. Adam Wallace gifted 5 subs. Good, good. Man, you did that with like 5 seconds left, Adam. Look at how many subs Adam's given in the channel. 547. God damn. Man, Adam. That's a lot of subs. Yeah. Go, Adam. Do you plan to do chess lectures over Twitch? Probably in about 3 seconds. All questions are for Karen. Okay, we have 170 viewers. I guess I can start. So today's matches were the All-American matchup, Caruana Nakamura and Ding versus Nepomniachtchi. Not as American. Yeah. Yeah, Adam's given a lot of subs in the last 2 years. Good, good. That's right, it is over 2 years. Okay, so Fabi's white, and they got to the Hikaru position, it should be called. I guess this is the Hikaru Nakamura defense, because he has it every game. Okay, so in the previous games in this event, white was playing h3, and Fabi played h4. I don't know if that's a known move, or he made it up for this tournament. Fabi also claims that he's using his candidates preparation for this tournament since he doesn't, who knows if the candidates is ever going to happen again, so he might as well use it against 2750, 2800 players. This tournament has a pretty good prize fund, so yeah. Okay, so yeah, the way chess is being played now, everybody's playing h4 in every position. H3 is the way people used to play chess. Now we play h4. All right, and then they played the same way. And with the pawn on h3, Hikaru's either playing bishop b7 or bishop a6. But here he played knight e4. So he decided with the pawn on h4, he'll play more aggressively, with the white king on e1. All right. And I guess Fabi expected this, or this is still theory, I don't know. Because Fabiano was playing very quickly. And they traded. You could never really take this, because, queen h5, you don't want to open the h file to your king. Okay, queen d5, bishop e2, bishop a6, and he castled even though he played h4, which is sort of funny. You would think you would want the pawn here if you castle kingside. You would think that. So the problem with taking on g5 is, white's always playing queen g4, threatening mate and the bishop. So that's not usually a good idea. And so Naka decided to trade everything. Okay, and then he even took here. Now the engine wants to sacrifice a pawn for white by playing queen g4, and then g6, and then just playing chess, which seems like an odd pawn sacrifice. I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess he could play queen g4, and then after g6, he could trade rooks and play queen f4. To play here. So here, I mean, black's up a pawn. I guess white has compensation for a pawn. I'm not sure what white's next trick is, but okay. The engine says it's equal. So, all right. So instead of doing that, he played what's called a desperado. If you're not sure what a desperado is, I recommend the Eagles. Jay McGrath subscribed and put in a quote from Blues Brothers. And then Vold gave 100 centidues twice in a row. All right. Yeah. Okay, so if I take the bishop, then the queen here takes this bishop. So he played bishop takes g7. And black is still up a pawn. Well, he's not up a pawn yet, but he's going to win this pawn. Problem is, if he takes this pawn now, queen g4 check wins it back. And obviously, black's pawn structure doesn't look very good, and his king doesn't look very safe. The engine says after h5 it's equal. That stops queen g4 check. And then the c5 pawn is hanging. That seems like an Hikaru kind of move, but queen e5 is just as good. It threatens the rook. Now, one of my rules for my students when I used to teach chess was never trade, and my students ignored me, and I quit teaching. So this is an excellent example of never trade, although I guess anytime you can legally trade and then you don't, that would be an excellent example of never trade. But this is one where a lot of weaker players would trade and stronger players would never trade, because obviously black's king is a little shaky and white's king is not. So you want to keep the heavy pieces on the board. This one was recommended by Heavy D, but I don't think the boys liked it. Anyway, now Hikaru made probably his first mistake of the game. I think he should challenge the file with one of the rooks to d8. And then his rook can go to d5 later and double up on the bubble up, or he can take control of the file. But I think Hikaru was too interested in winning this pawn, and probably can win the pawn later. So again, he could play h5, or he could play one of the rooks to d8, and the position, according to the engine, is equal. Probably most grandmasters would take white, because this king is more exposed. But he played rook a5, because he wanted this pawn. And he played king h8, which is another move I don't think is correct. He's trying to stop queen g4 check winning his pawn, and figures the king's safer on h8 than g7. But again, h5 stops queen g4 check, and h5. So, all right, g3. He gave up a pawn, and white has great compensation for a pawn. As I said during the game, white wants to take the 7th and 8th ranks and attack the black king, which he was able to do. Rook b7, rook d7, queen g4. Try to get this king. Black's advantage, obviously, is black's up a pawn. All right. Let's see. Somebody cheering. Go Vold. Ben, you're frozen. I can't be frozen because you spelled "you're" wrong. So, therefore, I'm not frozen. Yeah. All right. So the train ended. Boo. It's not making noise. Yeah, only 200 makes noise. Less doesn't. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. If you people are complaining like I'm frozen or any other complaints, get a new computer. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Boo scam train. All right. So the engine says this is equal. Rook d5 is fine. Rook c4 is fine. C5 is fine. Queen c2 is fine. And during the stream, I was very, worried that f5 would open up black's king too much, although f5 is the engine move. But that doesn't really tell the whole story. So picture yourself in a boat on a river with tangerine trees and marmalade skies. Oh, wait a minute, that's something else. Imagine all the people living for today. Oh, wait, never mind. Got the Beatles in here. Imagine a position the engine says like 0.00. So you're like, okay, it says equal. And then you go back looking at the shadows on the wall because that's, you guys got nothing. And turns out when it's white's turn to move, every move is all zeros. And white makes one of those moves. Now it's black's turn to move. One move is a draw and the other moves all lose. And this continues on for several moves. So theoretically, the position is equal, but practically, you take white. So this is one of those positions where the engine says black is fine, but you take white because the engine defends perfectly and eventually draws, and white just has a free attack on black's king, and black doesn't have counterplay. So after thinking for a long time, the engine prefers white and says this is the best move. The problem is this is open forever, and this is safe forever. And also diamonds are forever. Yay, gift sub, 100 centidues. All right. Let's see. We'll have to time you out for your indolence, even though you keep donating. Too bad. Yeah. William Shatner's the finest hairpiece around. Okay. So he played rook a4 because he wants his rooks to go to the 7th rank, and the rook on c4 is too passive. Now, this is a good learning moment for you at home. And I've taught a lot of chess, so it's very hard for you to learn because I tell you stuff and you just ignore it. So that's good, very good. Good job at home. A lot of people wouldn't play the move rook a4 to activate their rook because they would say to me, that's a passed pawn. I don't want that pawn to queen, so I'm blockading it. That's correct. But that's an open king, and you want to checkmate it. And you're not going to win the game by keeping your rook here. You're going to be down a pawn and blocking the pawn. So how are you supposed to win? Now, Caruana has better judgment than you. He knows the pawn's not going to queen, and he knows, this is open, so he's got to get in there. All right, that's what he said. Hikaru doubled up on the bubble up. That's a good move. Rook b7, that's a good move. Obviously, we can't allow that because that would suck. So he played the correct move. Now, Fabiano played a really interesting move, especially considering that it's a rapid game. So this is the engine move, but it's sort of tricky. And white doesn't want to trade rooks, but white does want the 7th or 8th rank, and black has the 7th and 8th rank. So something's got to give. And he played the move rook a8. This is very interesting. And This ensures he gets the 7th or 8th rank. And probably, it might sound strange, it's safer to give away the 8th rank. Because on the 7th rank, the king is tied down, and white can threaten queen g7 mate and queen h7 mate. And if the rook's on the 8th rank, then black's king can move up to g7, and there are no mates. So it's better not to have your king tied down to the back rank. So that's why he took this rook. That was the correct decision. Now, the king has a lot of escape squares now, so it's less likely to get mated. And the rank is defended. And as I was saying on the stream, this is a typical move for a grandmaster, but not easy for you guys. The next move that white made. What you guys are thinking is, how do I get my queen in there? Okay, and that is correct. However, black wants to play like queen a1 check and rook b1 and checkmate you also. So Fabi plays king g2 because the king is much safer on g2. It can't get checked on the back rank. Obviously, black can't play rook b1, and queen a1 would hang the c pawn followed by queen f8. So king g2 is an excellent move. And now Naka realizes this is his only hope since his king is no good. So he plays rook c7, try to get that pawn in there. Queen a4. And what's funny is the first few seconds of the engine line, black plays c4, white plays queen e8, which is really scary. And, the engine, defends. It plays king h6, and it tries to defend. And at least black has this counterplay. However, the engine still prefers white quite a bit. And when you're a human, and you see like queen e8 and your king is here, you get really scared. And when people get scared, that's when they get shot. So we're all going to be like little Fonzarellis here. And what's Fonzarelli? He's cool. Correctamundo. All right. So Naka made the engine agrees, but I think practically it's a poor choice. That's what I think. Practically, black should do that and just get checkmated. And if he doesn't get checkmated, he's going to make a queen. The way Naka played, he's trying not to get checkmated, but he's not getting counterplay. Now, Naka only has like a minute on his clock, so I don't know. I'm sure I would lose too. But all right, so he played queen f6, attacking the rook, queen e8, and king h6. The problem is white has the same attack, the same deviled egg also, but this isn't dangerous. But in chess, practically speaking, when there's heavy pieces on the board, whoever has the safer king wins. Yeah. Flock of seagulls. Where's the case? Yeah. I'm always scared in my games. Yeah. Yeah. So rook d6, threatening e6. All right. King to g7. And now, if white plays rook takes e6, which the engine does, black can play queen f7, and there's going to be some trades. And Fabiano doesn't want to trade because his king's no good. Now, the engine still likes white. The engine plays here and goes into this pawn up queen ending. But Fabiano didn't want to trade because the king's no good. So he played queen b8, attacking the rook. And then he played rook c6, so he's on both pawns. And rook f7 is a very bad practical decision because black's going to lose in the long run. His king's going to be exposed, and he's given up his c-pawn. So even if the engine says this may be defensible, practically speaking, it is not. Again, if an engine's playing black and there's hours on the clock, maybe. But in a practical game with less than a minute, black doesn't have much chance here. And black lost relatively quickly. He just has to defend, and it's no fun. Yeah. And then rook e7 is just a blunder. But, I mean, white was threatening queen here, so it's already winning for white. I guess the losing move is rook here, rook f7. He has to play rook g7 if he is going to move the rook. That way, if the pawn gets attacked, he can play rook g6. But that's no fun. So the game ended basically instantly. And now Fabi missed a nice win with rook takes e6 and checkmate. But everything wins at this point. And rook e7's another nice win because the queen can't take because of this. That would have been a quick win too. You can't take with the queen because you lose your rook. So he had to take this and check, and then he resigned because he's losing his rook. And so on. Mainly and so on. So very nice game from Fabiano, who sacrificed a pawn to get an attack on black's king. And practically, it was very hard for black to play. It was, I mean, yeah. It was difficult. So, I mean, this tournament, it's one tournament, but Fabi's playing a lot better rapid chess than he has a reputation for. Put it that way. Yeah, Fabi's pretty good. Is there a legal move to move 2 pawns at the beginning of the game as white? What did I do wrong? Why not rook a7 instead of rook a8? Asking questions from 20 moves ago. Damn, harsh. This position, there's nothing wrong with rook a7. Yeah. Bam. Let's see. What does the engine do? Queen d5 seems reasonable. Let's see. You could trade rooks and play queen a1 check. Also reasonable. Queen d5 seems reasonable. The other way to play is this, and then you don't want to allow rook d1, so you have to go back, and then I go back. And yeah, rook a8 stops all that. So that's more accurate. See, the thing is, if you trade this way, if the black rook is on d8, which it was in our variation, black was playing check, threatening rook d1, and doubling up on the bubble up. But here, the queen and rook both can go to a1, so black can't double on the 8th rank, if you see what I'm saying. So the black can't get his counterplay quick enough. Whereas, after rook a8, the move you suggest, or rook a7, the move you suggested, now I'm threatening rook d1, so you have to retreat here. And then you don't... Or, as the engine also says, I could play here. And you can't get the 7th or the 8th rank now. So, rook a8's just, excellent move. Because if you take this, I take this with check, and then it's my move, and I get to play king g2. So it's a tempo race, yeah. All right. Did you hear Chris Como got coronavirus? God damn, that was like 4 weeks ago. Jesus. 2007 guest waking up from a 4-week coma. God damn. That reminds me, 2007 guest. On The Simpsons, they go to a hospital where the guy wakes up from a coma for 25 years. And they ask him, his reporter's there. And the guy says to the reporter, whatever happened to that stupid Sonny and Cher show? And the guy goes, she won an Oscar and he's a congressman. I mean, this is when he was alive. And the guy said, good night. He pulled his own plug. So, yeah. Yeah, everybody in Chris Cuomo's family has the virus. His wife, his older kid. The younger kids will get it soon, etc. All right, everybody has coronavirus, including all of you in the chat. All right, if you want to see analysis of previous games, some guy asked, you go to my YouTube channel and all the games are analyzed. That's right. All right. I did teach Naka. I taught him how to use a fork and how to tie his shoes, but still, yeah. Yeah. All right, next game. What's this all about? New post. Deleted. All right, so Nepomniachtchi's white against Ding, and they played the Ruy Lopez they like to play. Okay, Ding has had this several times. And later in the match, and in the Giri match with Ding, white played knight c4, but Nepomniachtchi played a little more passively and solid. Then he played h4 because he's Nepomniachtchi. And black sort of outplayed white in this opening and got a very good position. h5, g4 is a little much. And this position is very good for black. Material's equal. Black has 2 bishops against 2 knights. It's not clear where to put this king. Black's king is very safe with the bishop on f8. This is lined up. So the engine and me, in particular, really like black. I probably like black more than the engine does, because I like the 2 bishops against the 2 knights, and the fact that if white ever castles, he's going to get run over here. Okay, now in this position, the engine wants to either take the knight and play queen f6 or play queen f6 right away, threatening these 2 pawns, but he played c4. He's trying to open the position for his bishops. And rook a6 is a very strange move. Not as strange as Magnus's rook h3 yesterday, but close. But, all right, so c4, rook a6 was not technically accurate. d4 is also not a fan favorite, since it gives away the e4 pawn defense. So he keeps pushing his pawns. Seems a little dangerous with the king here. Queen d5, rook g3. Everybody puts their rook on the 3rd rank. c5. Knight e3 is forced, I think, to kick the queen out. And they got this ending where probably it should be a draw. c3 is probably a mistake. And in this position, I think it's very hard to play black. And, I'm sorry, very hard to play white, because white's position is really under pressure, and his king is still lined up with the rook. The engine says it should be a draw, but it prefers black. Liren made a very, very, very strange decision in a few moves, and that gave away all of his advantage. And that was in this position. So black should be better here by trading on d4 and playing the move c3, because the bishop's on f8. I mean, white's king is less safe than black's. Black is advancing his 3-2 majority. And black's a little bit better. But instead, he chose a move where he has a worse position. He played e4. That move makes so little sense. Some people said it was a mouse slip, but it's not a mouse slip, just a bad move. White wants his knight blockading the pawn, and this pawn is very strong now, and the rook gets to go to f5 attacking this. So this really helped white, the insertion of e4, rook f5. Now white's the one who's better, although I must say Liren drew pretty easily. So now that white's probably better, black should be trading all the pawns off the board, because this pawn's going to eventually be strong. So he started trading all the pawns off the board. And white wants to take this pawn, but then the knight gets pinned on the c file, rook c8, rook c6. So he played king b1, so he could safely take the pawn. And they're trading pawns. Everybody's happy. Trade all the pawns. And when the pawns are all off the board, that means it's usually a draw. Yeah, there's no pawns on the board. So, and I think they got to king versus king or something. Something silly. And then check. So Liren basically vacuumed the board once he was slightly worse. But I think between moves 10 and 20, Ding had good winning chances because of his 2 bishops against 2 knights. And Nepomniachtchi just kept moving forward. He didn't care. He just played g5, h5, g6, knight. He didn't care. It's like, whatever. e5. He just kept moving his pawns forward. So that was a funny game, because white could have gotten in serious trouble there, but he did not. All right. Now, it looked like this was the most boring game in history until it wasn't. Played a Slav. And this is what I play with white and black. I've had both sides of this position. Naka keeps playing knight bd2, which I'm not familiar with that, but all right. The knight's pretty good on c4, so I agree with that. And they got this position in the next game they played, and Fabiano played an improvement. Yay, 1,000 centidues, 100 centidues. No insulting the streamer, although keep giving 1,000 centidues and I'll forgive you. All right, so black played this move, and the next game he played a different move. They got this position again. And the reason is, I guess, Fabi didn't like giving away the d6 square like this. Okay. And they traded everything off. They really traded everything off. God damn. They traded everything off. Yep. They couldn't trade more. They tried to trade more and they couldn't. Now here, black is a tiny bit better by just trading queens and then playing like rook d7 or something. I mean, this rook's not very good. This knight's not very good. It should be a draw. And it's amazing what happened from here on out, considering who the players are. I mean, you would guess in some weird, materially imbalanced, complicated position, Hikaru's a better player, but in some really boring technical position, probably Fabiano is. And god damn, this is boring and technical. So it's shocking what happened from here on out. It's hard to believe Fabi didn't trade queens and put white's knight on a3 and played this instead. And, now he missed knight d6, obviously, when he played queen rook c7. Frankly. Probably he thought white would play knight a3 here. He just didn't see knight d6. And black has back rank issues. Now, this is still pretty equal. So, yeah, he can't take the knight because of rook c8 check. So he played g5, which the engine prefers. And knight takes b7, rook d2. Black is threatening all these pawns, and here comes the knight to attack these pawns. So this is still equal. But he played rook c8, which looks like a boring draw. So here, I already gave the game up as a draw, and I barely paid attention to it because, I mean, this is an all-0 position, and nobody's better. Or so I thought. So I'm guessing Fabiano's having nightmares about this tonight. Nightmares. Yeah. All right, 1,000 centidues. All right, so yeah, I mean, this looks pretty drawn. It was funny that Naka kept moving his knight. I think the engine likes b6 more, but I mean, they're both drawn. It doesn't matter. Okay, and this position, probably black has to take care, and probably doing this can wait because white's attacking all these pawns with his knight. So this is a mistake from Fabi. Probably he should play knight d5 here, getting his knight into the action. But he played here. And now it seems like white is better. And by better, it's a draw, but black has to play accurately, which he did not. So I think after knight d5, black doesn't have to play very accurately because his knight's in the game. And here his king or knight weren't in the game, so he has to defend all these pawns. He doesn't want to lose these pawns. And, he's only got one way to save them. Now, again, the engine says this is fine. And here is where black has to play very tricky to equalize. And he did not. He made a very bad move here. He should play knight d5. And one of the reasons not to play knight d5 is you're afraid of e4. And then you see what's happening here. And Fabi has this really tricky move. And if you take the knight, then after b3, black's winning. So you take the pawn, I take the pawn, and the engine says this is equal, which makes sense. So after knight d5, the engine says this is still equal. Okay, Fabi played a3. Problem with a3 is white plays b3. And now, if the same thing happens that I just showed you, then instead of the pawns being on a2 and a4, the pawn's on a3, so white just takes it. And yeah, so I'll show you again because you're probably confused. If knight d5, and then this, well, knight d5, I can't go forward. Okay. Well, not that. Okay, knight takes. Okay, now here you see there's a pawn on a4. In the variation that would happen in the game, black's pawn would be on a3, and white could like take this pawn with knight c2. So that's less favorable. So a3 is not a good move. Okay, now, after e4, white is better, but Naka found a much stronger move that I'm not allowed to talk about or look at. Okay, and that move is f3. And the reason is white wants to play e4, but doesn't want knight c3 to attack the e4 pawn. And if I do what I said I was going to do, remember I said this? I said it. Okay, now I have knight c3, and I can win this pawn. So, which would be a draw. So what Naka wants to do is win both of these pawns, but not give up both of these. That's why a3 was bad. And Fabi can be forgiven for missing this move, because who would think of it? Who, I ask you, who? Now, Naka doesn't like my rules, so he's always trying to break them, Eric Rosen style. So he played f3. Now, the point of f3, well, king f2 is a good move, is to play e4. The e4 pawn's protected. So black takes the pawn on e3, and now after takes, he can't win either one of these pawns, and white is going to gobble them up. White's going to move his king, and white's going to win this pawn and have two passed pawns. Unfortunately for Fabi, that's what happened. Okay, so he played knight d1. He wants to play knight c3 and take this pawn in case of this. And Naka moved his king over. Naka moved his king over. And, I mean, that pawn's going to be lost. Okay, here, black still has good drawing chances, and he made his final mistake, losing the game. Obviously, white wants to attack the knight moves away, and then I take the pawn. Both players knew that. So what he needs to do is defend. He needs to move his king here or here, and then after king c4, play king c6. Now, that's no fun, defending, and hoping to draw, but he has to do it. Instead, he played for counterplay, and that didn't work. Trying is the first step to failure. So he just gave up his c-pawn, and he was like, I'll get my passed pawns on the king side. Rawr. All right, so black thought I'll get counterplay, maybe I'll draw. And they got to a critical position. And the critical position was here. And the reason it's critical is white has one move that wins, otherwise he does not win. And in fact, white could even lose. So a6 is a blunder. And in this position, if we take the knight, now black's actually winning. This is winning for black. And I showed the line during the stream. And then takes, here. And this is a pawn up for white, but white's lost. Because black's going to trade queens. And then black's going to gobble these pawns up. So black's winning here. So a6 is a terrible blunder. We don't want black to sacrifice his knight for the pawn. We want to just get a queen for free. So in this position, white wants to play a6, but doesn't want to allow knight b4 check. So Naka made the only winning move, king c5, stopping knight b4. And now, yeah, there we go. Okay, and yeah, these pawns aren't dangerous. These pawns are dangerous. And if somehow you win both of these pawns, I can win all of these pawns, so I still win. Just sort of what happened. Yeah. And he resigned here, because the knight has to stop the pawn, and then I just gobble these up. So, I mean, from just an equal ending, since it was a rapid game, and both sides probably had less than 7 minutes, when the night ending started, Fabi got outplayed. missed the drawing line, and lost a position that wasn't really much worse, if worse at all, by getting outplayed. Sort of a shocking the way that game went, because that's not the way you would expect Nakamura to beat Fabiano. And I have to tell you a funny story. It's a true story. I played Hikaru twice in the U.S. Championship Blitz tournaments, which they used to have in St. Louis. $10,000 prize fund, so everybody played. And one of the games is on the internet, where I was white and a Dutch, and I lost, and so forth. That game has that video actually has a lot of views. There's another game I played, which is not on the internet, another U.S. Championship, and I was black, and I just slowly got outplayed and lost. And I went to Kaidanov, and I said, "How did I lose to Nakamura like in that way? Like, he can't do that. Nakamura's going to beat me on time. Nakamura's going to trick me tactically every move. That's how I lose to Nakamura. He just like was equal, slightly better, clearly better, winning, and it was weird. It was like I was losing to Carlsen or Karpov when he was good, or Kamsky when he was good." And he said, "No, Hikaru's a world-class player. He can beat you any way he wants." And I was like, what? I was shocked because, Hikaru's MO is to trick you and beat you on time, not to slowly outplay you. And that's what he did with Fabi, is he slowly outplayed him in the night end game. I mean, that's not, But yeah, if you're one of the top players in the world, I guess you're just good at everything. Man, I hate that. I can't believe I lost to somebody. Damn. All right. Yeah, Hikaru likes those nights. God damn. All right, next game. Is this stream over yet? Losing my voice already. Okay, now, there's a lot of funny stuff in the internet about this game, mainly from Svidler and Grishuk, mainly from Grishuk. Grishuk was like, "I wish I was a chess coach so I could beat up my student." God damn. That's good coaching. And if he was Nepomniachtchi's student, he said he would have beat him up. So if Nepomniachtchi was his student. So Nepomniachtchi does something a lot of the other super GMs don't do. Sometimes he just plays instantly every move. And this tournament, with a 10-second increment, often between moves 10 and 20, possibly 20 and 30, Nepomniachtchi has more time than he started with. Now, the world's leading authority on having more time than you started with a 10-second increment is Vishy Anand. And there was a game played, I want to say in the early 90s, 91, 92. I guess it's on the internet, so I could be wrong, but it's probably early 90s. It was a game between Anand and Salov. The time control was 25-minute with a 10-second increment. And Anand was white, and the game ended on move, 23, something like that. And when the game ended, Anand had 28 minutes left. So I guess Grishuk would have beat him up. And Anand won. So, yeah, Anand used to be really fast and good and not old. Yeah. You can find that game, I guess. Anand Salov. White wins in between 20 and 25 moves. Maybe it was less than 20 moves. God damn. But, Anand just moves instantly. So, in this game, Nepomniachtchi made a huge mistake and then played bad, and he just plays really fast. Now, here's why coaches are all wrong about everything, except me, is that here's what coaches don't understand, okay? And the general public at large doesn't understand. Only statisticians understand it. They don't understand nothing, so I don't know. It makes no sense. I guess you must have quit. Anyway, when you do something and whatever you did doesn't work, the coach is like, "Rawr, why'd you do that?" And their reasoning is, it didn't work. Good reasoning. Okay, so you sack a queen, and then your opponent takes your queen, and then you play the winning continuation you saw. Then your opponent makes a move you didn't see, and you're down a queen for nothing, and then you resign, and your coach yells at you. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. What you need to do is look at all your queen sacks. If you sack your queen 20 times in 10 years and you're 19-1, those queen sacks worked out pretty well. But if your coach only sees the game you lost, then, you idiot, and so forth. Okay, so if Nepomniachtchi moves instantly every move and loses, everybody says what an idiot he is. Look at that guy, moving fast, losing, what a dummy. Okay, however, you should look at all of his games. And if he plays really fast and wins, maybe he's less dumb than you think. Maybe he's top 10 in the world. Maybe he's leading the candidates. All right, so if we just look at the games he loses, he doesn't look very good. If we look at the games he wins, he looks pretty good. Okay, that's with everybody. So you don't want to judge on one game. Okay, if you play the French defense and you get destroyed and your coach says, the French defense is terrible, what are you doing? Look at that. Well, if you have the data and you're like, I got, 17 and a half out of 20 with the French defense, bitch. Okay, then, yeah. All right. Having said that, the Nepomniachtchi plays too fast. Now, at the U.S. Championship one year, Kaidanov beat Kamsky. It only happened once in his life. And there was commentary. Probably I was doing commentary. And Kaidanov, was in the commentary showing the game. And then when he was done, I beat, Kamsky. Then we were looking at another game that Hikaru was playing with somebody, like analyzing the other games. And I said, is Hikaru playing too fast? Because Hikaru plays pretty fast. And Kaidanov said, Hikaru always plays too fast, but he always wins. So I don't know. That's sort of like Nepomniachtchi. Do everything wrong, always win. Then when they finally lose, we got him. All right. Not sure if that makes any sense, but that's what happened. Okay, so this game, Nepomniachtchi was blundering and playing fast. Now, F3 obviously, is trying to egg him on. Terrible. Okay, and this is a main line that Matt Larson has played in the Grunfeld for both sides. All right, very sharp line, very complicated, very interesting line. Always play King B1, making up for F3. Okay. And in this position, the engine already likes white because white has this nice pawn chain. White's going to attack. Black's pieces are sort of passive. All right. And the game continued thusly. Put it in H. Now, during the game, I explained to you all how good players always take this way and bad players always take this way. And now Nepomniachtchi is going to show you and so forth. And then after that long speech, he took this way. I'm not sure which move is better in this exact position, but okay. So now, very interesting thing happened. He took the knight, removing the defender, and then took the pawn, and white's up a pawn, and black has two bishops for compensation. Okay. And in this position, he tripled up the pawns, opening up this rook, but tripling up. So black has triple pawns, black's down a pawn, white has a passed E pawn. Sounds good. Black has two bishops and an open file for his rook towards the king. So the engine says white's slightly better. Okay. Now, after A3, according to Svidler and Grishuk, I don't know, black's next move was made very quickly, and it's just a blunder, losing the game. So the game ended here. If he makes a normal move, the engine suggests rook c8, since white's threatening knight here, then it's equal. That's what the engine says. Maybe even black's better. And in this position, we don't want to play knight c7 now because, we get crushed. Okay, so that was the point of A3. Now, when my lectures are over, like this one, my game analysis, I put these on YouTube. As I was driving up here and I parked my car, I saw on YouTube there was a comment from, the gawking rabble. Now, it could be that comment's been deleted or somebody else answered it, or I don't know. On this video, on this game, the one, and it said the G5 loses the game to knight C7. That's it. The game's over. The engine says white's plus 1,000 now. And the guy on YouTube said, Ben, what you and Nepo missed was queen e5, knight takes a8, rook takes d1, queen d1 mate. He's like, you idiots. That's a comment on my YouTube page right now from about 2 hours ago. Probably better than queen takes would be rook takes. And then white's up a rook. Well, okay, he gets to take this. Yeah. So comment incorrect. If only Nepo and I didn't miss that, and Ding Liren. All right, so g5. Now here's my question. I understand g5's bad. I understand it loses. I understand that it's a blunder. Here's what I don't understand. You guys can help me out. When Nepomniachtchi played g5, did he expect or see knight c7? Does he see a knight forking his queen and rook? Let's say he did, since he's one of the top 10 players in the world. Let's assume he saw knight c7. Let's assume. What was he intending to do? What was his plan? Now, there's only two things I can think of. There's three things. He didn't see knight c7. That's the most insulting. He saw knight c7, and he thought it was fine. He was like, yeah, I'm sacking the exchange, 2 bishops. Okay. Or he miscalculated. So he thought knight c7, here, I'm winning. And now he's like, oh, I'm not. I don't know what that line is. I don't know. See, it could be Nepomniachtchi saw stuff we don't see, and it turned out it was wrong. It could be he saw what happened in the game, and he misunderstood it. It could be he didn't see knight c7. And in this position, after knight c7, black thought a long time, like several minutes. So I don't know. It's very strange. Yeah. All right. I don't know. All I know is, according to Grishuk and Svidler, g5 was played like instantly. So, yeah. All right. So, there we go. Yay, he took a rook. And here comes the other knight. So, maybe Nepomniachtchi saw this position and said, I like black. Maybe. When he played g5. I don't know. The engine does not agree. It says black can't make any threats. This knight's the best. These pawns are blocked. He's down a rook for a piece. In fact, these pawns are all going to be captured. So, I mean, this looks pretty good, actually, I must say. But I can't find a way to make it better. I can't improve. So the game just ended very quickly. I mean, like nothing happened. As white just totally dominated the game. And then he resigned. The engine says like +7 for white. So yeah, that was weird. I don't know. I don't know if he missed knight c7 or he thought good exchange sack. I don't know. I mean, I would think good exchange sack, but I'm always kidding. So, Nepomniachtchi's not kidding. Now, the thing is, and we've talked about this on stream before, you want to play good players, okay? When I go to a tournament, when tournaments existed in real life, when before the world ended, you look at the pairings, and everybody's hoping they play the world's worst player. Then they're hoping the world's worst player hangs their queen and mate every move. Okay. Good players are hoping their opponents are good and play well. And it's a really good game and they learn a lot from it. So if I'm playing 1 minute or 3 minute, which I often do on my stream against you guys, and you guys are rated like, 800 or whatever, I can do whatever I want, and then I win anyway. So that's not really improving my chess. That's, I make 7 rooks. Okay, I'm just being silly. But these guys are pretty good. So if you give all your pieces away, then you lose. So you have to train yourself to never be silly or sacrifice. You gotta be serious. And this was one of Nakamura's biggest problems between 2005 and 2010 is he was playing in a lot of American tournaments against people rated 2200 to 2600 USCF, and whatever he did won because he's too good for them. And what he needed to do, which is what he does now, well, not anymore, but is play in super GM tournaments against the top 10 players in the world, not play in the World Open and play a 2200 then a 2300. That's not how you get to 2800. You get to 2800 by playing 2700s. So occasionally Nepomniachtchi plays like a lunatic, and then if he was playing me, he would win anyway, sort of like when I play you. But when he's playing Ding, I mean, you gotta chill them. Can't do that. You gotta make serious moves. So when the engine says it's equal and you make a move where your opponent's +5, if you're playing a bad player, it might not matter. But if you're playing Carlsen and Caruana and Ding and Geary, well, not Geary, then you can't play like moves that are like, giving up a 5-pawn advantage. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. All right. Nepomniachtchi doesn't know what I mean. So Nepomniachtchi has very strange results, like wins all his games, the next turn loses all his games, confusing the audience. Charlotte Chess Center's rating: I raid you, you raid me, you gave me 8 + 60. Good. Now, a good example is Peter, who just raided me. Peter's very solid. Peter's not like, well, my opponent's 1700, so I'll sack 3 pieces and walk my king up the board. That's what I do. Okay, Peter's always trying to play the best move, trying to play the right move, irrespective of his opponent's rating. That way, on the off chance, Peter plays 7 GMs in a row in a round robin, he's playing his usual game all the time. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Exactly. So Peter's pretty solid. All right. And then Dominique, no comment. All right. Dominique, you lost a rook. I got another one. All right. Now we got the revenge game. I must revenge to you. And they did it again. The Nakamura opening. And Fabi was not kidding, because in this position, Fabi played h4, just like he did in the first game. All right. And a very similar kind of game. Okay. Looks familiar, doesn't it? All right. And right. Now, in the first game, Fabiano castled. Okay. And in this game, Fabiano played very quickly. I think he got a phone call from one of his coaches. And he played this move. And then after castle, he took. And the idea is, if you take with the rook, I have bishop b6, doing that. And that is what happened. I mean, white's threatening b7. So, okay. So white wins the pawn temporarily, but this h-pawn's still hanging, so he took that. Okay, and I prefer white a little bit, but not much. Slightly, just slightly. Very strange position. Bishop's weird. Rooks are weird. Everything's weird. Okay. Now, during the game, in this position, somebody said, like, rook c5 is interesting. And I was thinking, well, it's interesting, but he won't play that. And then Caruana played that. Yeah, probably shouldn't play that. But, everybody's sacking the exchange. So probably this is a draw with correct play. But I'd rather have white, because white has a lot of pressure here. This is odd for Fabi to, give the pressure away to do something more immediate. That's not really his style. So that's, it's more Nakamura style, rook c5, sack and exchange. Okay, and the engine didn't like what white did. It said black was fine. And after f5, Fabiano thought forever. So I don't know if he didn't see f5 or he misunderstood. And the engine says he can still draw by putting his bishop and queen here and allowing, not there, and allowing, black to break through here, which seems really dangerous to me. So Fabi, after sacking the exchange and playing for an attack and so forth, decided to just hunker down and try to draw. Okay, very suspicious. So he played G3 and then King G2. He's like, I'm solid. And the engine said, no. So now black's up in exchange for no pawns. And this position, white's threatening, queen takes rook. If the rook moves away, this pawn's hanging, and queen c4 is annoying. So he has to play queen d3. And Fabi thought forever and went into this much worse ending, which Hikaru didn't try to win. So I was confused. The engine really likes black. And I was like, I don't know why the engine likes black so much. I think this is like good chances for a draw. It seems like black doesn't have a lot to work with here. And Hikaru must have thought like I did, except I would try to win, against somebody my own rating. But black didn't try to win this. Yeah, the engine did not agree. And they just repeated. And like in this position, the engine says black has a big advantage. Obviously, black didn't think so. I don't know, maybe he's right. Maybe it is just a draw. You're up the exchange for a pawn. But, all right. I would bet it's probably a draw, but I don't know why Nakamura didn't try to win. Rook for a bishop and pawn. I don't know. I don't know if he talked about it on the stream or if anybody talked about it on the other broadcast. I'm not saying black's winning, but black's better. Yeah. No, I understand Hikaru thought it was a draw, but, move one is a draw and you don't agree to a draw, you try to win. Yeah. It doesn't seem like he's risking much. All right, that's a strange decision from Hikaru, because now on the other hand, Hikaru might have thought, I'm white in the last game. If that game is a draw, I'm going to win the Armageddon. All right. Yeah. Well, when you say Hikaru didn't care, already top 4 to the next round, that sounds like an excuse. That sounds like why he didn't, yeah. Obviously, Hikaru wants to win the round robin. Everybody does. You want to come ahead of Magnus if you can. All right. Next game. Nepo just lost horribly, and they repeated the same line. He played queen e2 the last game. All right. And in this position, starting from here, this is move 10. Ding Liren did not play well. And Ding Liren is like the world's leading authority on this position. And he just played badly. I don't like anything he did. Okay, he played knight g4, which the engine doesn't like, defending and attacking. And then he defended his pawn. Bishop d2. So if knight h6, I take it. And now the engine wants to play f5, which is pretty risky. He played g5, which is also risky. Yeah, and I don't like black's position here at all. I don't like black's position. This is terrible. Okay, and rook here is also probably bad. Now, they got to this position, and black should definitely play queen d4. Trade queens, win this pawn. And after queen d4, white's better, but I wouldn't say white's winning. He played h6. That's, not terrible. Here with the idea of knight g4. And Ding Liren made... let me think about this. I don't want to say it's worse. It's equal. If you remember the blunder that Carlsen made against Giri, the move f3, allowing knight takes d3 check, queen c1 check. This is similar in how bad it is. This to me is less bad because black's position is very bad and the tactic is slightly tricky, whereas in the Giri game the tactic was not tricky. But this is horrible, right? Horrible. Now, here's what the gawking rabble does, and that's you. The gawking rabble looks at 1,000 games of some player, finds a game where they blundered, and then says, oh, that guy blunders, I could beat him too. I mean, you can. You guys could beat Carlsen. If you played him 1,000 games, maybe he would blunder his queen one game. But I doubt it. And these guys do blunder, but they usually blunder against each other, not against you. You don't really put any pressure on them, so it's hard for them to blunder. And they don't blunder very often. But you guys can beat Carlsen. Great. Okay, so, man, did he play bad now. He played queen d7. That's not the big blunder. And here, he has to play queen takes, giving up the exchange, and probably lost. Probably. But he played the worst move he's ever played, Liren. He took with the rook. God damn. And so on. American Pie. Yeah. And then, in a very unprecedented move on live internet streaming, Nepomniachtchi played this and said, gotcha, bitch. I mean, I think that was uncalled for. I like Liren. I don't know why he said that. I can't sing American Pie, and I can sing it better than Madonna, which isn't saying much. Man, they got Madonna good on Family Guy. They did a cutaway where Madonna's sitting with Peter and Lois on like a rug, and there's a fireplace, and it's all cozy, and they're dressed like in pajamas or something. And Madonna says, they're playing Truth or Dare. And Peter goes, Truth. And Madonna says, am I as pretty as I was 40 years ago? And Peter goes, Dare. Better than Tyson Fury. No. Gabe Hornstar subscribe. Good. Yeah, that wasn't good. Then Ding resigned due to not having a queen. Man, come on, Ding. Bam. Now that's puzzle rush right there. That's a puzzle rush tactic. God damn. I tell my students to look at checks and captures. I guess Ding didn't look at this check. Yeah, Grishik must be furious. So now, with one round to go, both matches are tied 1.5. All right. So whoever wins this game wins the match. And unfortunately, it was the boring world of Niels Bohr. And if you remember, Black played knight bd7 last game, and White played knight c4, bishop d... Okay. And he played rook d8 this game, stopping all the nonsense. And then White played bishop d2, which I don't understand. I mean, I would still play bishop f4, but... okay, he played bishop d2, and now knight bd7, because he can't go to d6. So this is an improved version of the previous game, since White's bishop is here instead of here. Cole Raven subscribe. Good. Right. That's correct, Road to Chessmaster. I already said that earlier. Try to watch the whole stream. All right. So they vacuumed the board, although there was a couple points where the engine liked one player or the other, but they already agreed to a draw in their head. They just traded everything. Neither player wanted to win. Yeah. All right. Everybody trades. Everybody trades sometimes. Now, f4 is the first move of the game the engine doesn't like very much. It thinks black's better after e5. You can't take as a bishop g5 check. And then White's pawn structure is going to get a little compromised here. It's still a draw, but... Okay, he played knight d7, vacuuming the board. And there was one interesting moment the rest of the game. And it's this position. The engine says every move draws. We could do this repetition. Now here, White can sacrifice a pawn and probably get a better position, but I think both players missed it. I think in their head, this game was already a draw. They're already thinking about Armageddon. So we can sack a pawn. Okay. And then you play rook b1. And the knight has to go to d4. And then rook check. You can't play rook d7 because I take and take. So you have to move your king. I don't think it matters where. Rook a7, or basically any move. And white's better here. White's down a pawn, but I mean, I got this rook, and my knight's good, and your king's no good. So I think rook d5 probably draws, but if both players had seen this, maybe white would have done this. Maybe. Maybe he just wanted the game to end so they could play Armageddon already. I don't know. Okay. And they just trade all the pieces off. All right. And they agreed to a draw. So I think like about move 14, the players already had the draw in their head, and they were just vacuuming the board. Yeah. Very suspicious. Naka was upset. Oh, for missing the b3? That's not easy to see. Hanging a pawn, check, forking your rooks. That's not something you would necessarily see in a game where you've already given up the game as a draw. Okay. And this was the game 4. This match is tied. And they said that Nepo was just playing instantly every move. Yeah, black's slightly worse. Takes. They're trading everything, vacuuming the board. Now, the problem with this vacuuming the board, which they did, they took, is these pawns are isolated and weak. So white's better. Now, black is completely developed. They've traded all the pieces. But those are 2 weak pawns. Okay, and he won a pawn, which makes sense. Sometimes you win a pawn. Bishop d5 was an excellent move. Very good trade, weakening this pawn. Okay, and this position's probably like 50% win, 50% draw. And a6 is probably a bad move. Engine likes it, but I don't. And this is an excellent move. This is the most important move of the game for me. Not for you guys. You guys won't care about this move. So the only problem with white's position is his king. Like if the bishop goes here and your king's no good. So he played f4, making sure his king was never going to get in trouble. I like this move a lot. And then walked his king up. Now here, I believe black should have tried to draw this ending with rook takes and rook e8. I don't know if it's a draw, but I think trading all the rooks helps black. I guess both players thought white was winning. White's king walks up, he gets a passed pawn. Black's king has a lot of trouble getting over because of this. So he'll have to play like f6 and walk his king over to stop the passed pawn. And then he might, so maybe it is losing, maybe. But I want to trade all the rooks because white's rooks are better than mine. So he didn't do that. And in this position, Nepomniachtchi played a move I would never think of. So the 2 logical moves are rook here, defending your pawn, and the engine says rook here with some attack on the black king. And that you don't want to allow these attack, so you play bishop c5. Okay. But he played rook d2, and that's where Grishuk was threatening to beat up Nepomniachtchi, because plays rook d2 like pretty quickly, just losing the game immediately. So you got to have better defense than that. This is the last game of the match. You can't just play a bad move and resign. So obviously, after rook takes, black has like 1,000 checks, but you got to figure that out. You can't let him take. And after he took, then Nepomniachtchi thought for 6 minutes. So you don't make a move which like loses by force to an obvious move. And obviously he thought he had something. He thought like check, and then he just miscalculated. But miscalculating's fine. Problem is when he miscalculates, often he's just moving instantly. And then coaches don't like that you move in 1 second, then you resign. Now I have a funny story. I don't tell this story very often. I was coaching a kid long time ago. I don't know, 15 years ago, I'm going to say. And he had some problems. He was, on the spectrum. And he moved instantly. And he fell out of his chair. And he rocked in his chair. He would leave the room during the lesson. I wouldn't know it. He'd just be gone. Anyway, he was like 800. I got him in like 1,700. But anyway, he's playing a game in a kids tournament. Like the first couple of months I was teaching him. And he was up like 800 pieces. So I was like, all right. Then his opponent played rook h1 check, and my student's king was on h2. And the other kid was like kidding, like just king takes rook. He just is like, all right, check. And my student didn't see king takes rook right away. He thought maybe the rook was defended, otherwise rook h1 is silly. And then if it is defended, it's mate. It's not defended, you just take it. So after rook h1, he went like, oh, and then he shook hands and wrote the guy won and ran away. So my student lost because he thought he was mated. The other kid was like, what's happening? So the other kid didn't say mate, just my student thought he was in mate. So he made this like split second decision, which he did a lot. And that's like sort of what Nepomniachtchi does, except he's 2,000 points better than my student. So he makes this like rook d2 like in 1 second. Then after here, there's this huge thing. And it's not good for black. Okay, so he gives him a couple of checks. And I mean, he's lost. Sorry. Yeah, and now white's just easily winning. White's up 2 pawns. White's doubled on the 7th rank, etc. Okay, now in this position, if white plays f5, he's threatening rook h7 with mate because it blocks the bishop. And also, he wants to play bishop e5. So he played this move, stopping f5, because and if bishop e5, there's a very sneaky trick here. Rook takes e5, and then mate. That's pretty cool. Okay, so rook f2 is a cool move. It stops f5 and bishop e5. So Ding played bishop here, threatening bishop d4 and the rook. Rook d2. f5 wins immediately. After f5, I think black would resign. If you look at the engine, it's like plus 7 billion because we're threatening this mate and none of the checks or anything work, so it's over. But he played here. I mean, he's completely winning, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so he won without any problem. Okay, and then black resigned. Black's down 3 pawns. So very bad play that game by Nepomniachtchi, getting outplayed. But the part that makes Grishuk mad isn't the bad play, it's the rapidity. It's it's move 20 and Nepo has more time than he started with. And he's like lost. And you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come on. Rook takes e5 was sneaky. Yeah. Now, if Nepomniachtchi plays instantly, like he always does and wins games, then he's a genius. But when he loses, then Grishuk beats him up. So, yeah. It's funny, by far, the longest thing that he had in the game was in this position. After white made the obvious move, and he has like these checks, then he thinks for several minutes. But rook d2, 1 second. And then he's like, oh, let's see, how do I stop this mate and double to the 7th? So forth. I mean, those vegans on the 7th, that's something. Okay, now, unfortunately for Fabi, Hikaru won the toss and obviously took black. And then I just stopped streaming because Hikaru was black in a blitz game against Fabi, and Hikaru has draw odds. Come on. Ridiculous. So Fabi realized it was over, so he just offered a draw move 1, and they didn't play. So Hikaru won the match. Fabi just gave up and didn't care. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Oh, wait, that's not what happened. Let's see what actually happened. All right. So Hikaru played the Hikaru defense. And this position, every game in the tournament, white played c5, including in this match. And Fabi said, no, and played cd. So we haven't seen this yet. This is the horse of a different color, okay? Because this isn't Kansas anymore. All right, and they played a very interesting game. Really good game. Great game. Really high level. Okay, and I'll show you what I think the mistakes are. Rook a6 is weird, but all right. Yeah, really, okay. And here, white tries to play the Botvinnik-esque f3, e4, getting his center pawns going. Good. Okay, really good game. Great game. All right. Now, rook fd1 is hard to understand for the gawking rabble. Thanks to Beethoven. He wants to push these pawns, and if he takes this, he needs the d pawn defended. So he can push that also, but also defended. So the rook's good here. Now he doesn't like this lining up here. So he takes the knight. Bishop d6, I think, is a mistake. This bishop's really good at blocking the rook. But black figures if he trades everything, he has a passed pawn, and then this attack isn't so strong because there's no pieces on the board. All right, rook b7, knight f8. The engine says black's doing great. Okay, and when I finished my stream and I rated Dennis Boros, Chessweebs, he was critical of the next move. I agree. I think the next move for Hikaru is a bit shallow and pedantic. He doesn't want him to play e4. That's the plan. Push all the pawns. So he played rook f6. That way the f pawn is pinned, so you can't play e4. But that's pretty short-lived. So with the rook on d6, if he plays knight e6, for example, that also makes it hard to play e4 because the d pawn's weak. The engine wants to play h5, which to me looks insane. But okay, the engine's the engine. I'm just some guy, in a fat suit. All right, so he played rook f6, and he delayed this onslaught by taking the b file. I mean, if Hikaru's going to play bishop d6, you might as well take the b file. All right, and the engine says this is equal. The engine's all happy. Okay, and black's been equal or better for most of the game, and this is his last chance to maintain equality according to the engine. I don't blame Hikaru for his move. The engine wants to go here, threatening this pawn, and then white continues, his onslaught. And the engine says this is equal. Obviously, if I was playing, I wouldn't want to have black here. This looks great. This looks great. This looks great. But black is up a pawn, and black has a passed pawn. So the engine says it's equal, but I think for humans, they want to have white here. Okay, so Hikaru didn't like that and decided to go the other way. Okay, Fleetwood Mac style. Now you can't take this pawn because bishop takes h7 check and queen takes queen. So that's not really a threat. So Fabi continued. And after queen c3, I think this is just winning for white. Rook d8, I think, is his last chance defending his pawn. But this position is better for white. White's got the initiative. He's putting pressure on the pawns. The c pawn isn't strong. It's not queening. So I think white's just better here. And this probably just loses. And now he's playing for tricks, which he's very successful at in blitz chess, but Fabi didn't fall for no tricks. So it didn't work out well. And this is like maybe Caruana's best blitz game ever. He just was in control the whole game. He outplayed him. He advanced in the center. I mean, really, really good game for Fabi. And this is and bishop g4 was the only winning move in this position because knight takes e5 is a threat. And if knight takes e5 now, I take the rook and defend my other rook. So if you take the rook, I just take back. So he had to move his rook, d7, rook here, god damn. And this was a really interesting thing for me. This pawn, actually, white wants to get rid of it because then he can play rook e1 to e8, which he did in the game. Take the pawn now, I play rook c8, and if you play rook a8, I just take the rook on a8, and then I queen. So you have to play king e7, and then you can see why you don't want to take the pawn because of rook e1. And the king you're losing now. So Hikaru played knight b4, and then he played e6. e6 is a great move. You want to get rid of this pawn so you can play rook here, rook here, rook here. Obviously, with the pawn there, you can't do that. If you play rook here, I could play king e7. So he did this, and he got rid of the pawn. And then he played rook e1 check and rook e8. I mean, great play by Fabi. Obviously, that pawn's really strong. So White was winning like the last 20 moves of that game, and he never let up. I looked on the other site, and Fabi had more time the whole game. He starts with a minute more. But, Fabi's not known for his blitz game. And he was in a must-win situation. They got a very sharp, complicated position, and he outplayed Hikaru. That was, just a great game. It's no shame being beaten by the best. But, Dad, boy, we were beaten by the best. Fabi played great. God damn. Yeah. Fabi's 2,800. Sometimes, Yeah. No, Naka and Fabi are both playing well this tournament. Yeah. And Ding and Carlsen. Carlsen played really bad against Geary. Otherwise, he's playing, reasonably well. Against Geary, he played terrible. Frankly. So that's the wrap it up button. That's tonight. I'll see you guys in 11 and a half hours for round 6, day 1. I think Carlsen's playing Nepomniachtchi, but I don't know. You guys know in the chat more than I do. You guys know who's playing tomorrow? I thought Magnus said something on Twitter about I'm going to crush Nepomniachtchi. I don't know. Yeah. Naka gave lots of excuses. Man, the truth hurts. Yeah. Who's playing tomorrow? Nobody knows. All right. I think Magnus is playing Nepomniachtchi tomorrow. No, don't shut down the studio. 100% pure Cambodian. And Firouzja's playing Geary. God damn, the fight for last. Firouzja Geary. I guess we'll focus on that match. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.